Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? Biographer Michael Gora notes that the novelist Henry James lived in a world of second thoughts, frequently tinkering with his novels and stories after their initial publication. However, the differences between the 1881 first edition and the 1908 edition of his novel A Portrait of a Lady are extreme, even by James's standards. Blank, some critics regard the two editions as two different novels altogether. So option choice A says, by contrast. This is incorrect because in this sentence there are two parts. The first part highlights these two book editions, which the differences between them are extreme. The second part highlights how the critics regard these two editions as two different novels altogether. So by contrast highlights that there is a contrast between these two parts, but this is not the case because this second part supports or emphasizes what was said earlier. So by contrast would not fit here, and therefore A is incorrect. B, in fact. This seems to be the correct answer because it in fact properly shows or places emphasis on the differences between these two editions, and highlights this extremity, whereby it says that some critics regard the two editions as two different novels altogether. So B, in fact, properly fits here. So B seems to be the correct answer. C, nevertheless. This is incorrect because, like A, nevertheless implies a contrast between these two sentences, or parts of the sentence. But as before, this is not the case because the second part of this sentence offers emphasis or support for what was said earlier, not contrasting what was said earlier. Therefore, nevertheless wouldn't fit here, and C is incorrect. D, in other words. This is incorrect because in other words doesn't properly place emphasis on the differences between these two books, and in other words highlights a rephrasement or restatement of what was said earlier. Although to some degree this is true, it doesn't properly add the emphasis as in fact does. So D is incorrect, and the correct answer is B.